What's up, y'all? Everybody in the chat.
Guys,
What
I
up?
wish
What
I could
up?
see everybody who was coming in. Hey, y'all.
Yeah. Y'all see that beautiful face over there? That's Mia. If you don't know, Mia is truly. What's up, Carrie? Mia is so dope. I couldn't wait to do this. Especially in the time that we in right now. I look to Mia and I learned so much from Mia on the regs. I make sure I check out everything she got going on because she is super intelligent and she's really out here fighting the fight. She's on the front lines out here. Um, and Mia is the president and director of the National Basketball Wives Association. She's the president of the Wright Legacy Foundation. She's a mother of two young boys. And you may or may not know, but back in the day, she was in an R&B group called Before Dark. Just in case y'all need to know what I mean, I'm letting y'all know a little something. Yeah,
Funny.
what's going on, girl? How you doing?
What's up, Chris? How are you? Oh, snap. I got alarms and bells. Okay, let's get it going.
Winter sounds coming out of here, man.
I love it. I love it.
First, I wanted to definitely give you a round of applause for coming on. So,
Happy to be here. Long time in the making, yeah? Long time in the making.
well deserved, well deserved. Um, Before we get started, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Yellow Brick, for supporting the series. We're empowering dreamers to achieve their calling, as you guys know. Y'all make sure you go out there and check out their site, yellowbrick.co, to see all of the dope programs that they have to offer to pursue your passion. As we have this webinar, there's the name of this webinar. They offer so many dope programs online. You don't even have to leave your house, and you can learn from the most prestigious universities in the world, and also learn from seasoned industry experts. So yeah, y'all make sure that y'all go ahead and check out Yellow Brick at yellowbrick.co. Make sure y'all check them out. Uh, Before we get started, y'all understand the seriousness of everything going on right now for the Black Lives Matter movement and everything going on in America right now. We're not straying away from that, and we want to make sure that you guys know the importance and how we feel. Me and Mia have had plenty of conversations going into this about what we kind of wanted to talk about and how we wanted to tackle it. So we'll be talking about pursuing your passion, and we'll be touching on some issues as well. So I wanted to just show some love to some of these people that we lost before we get started. Breonna Taylor. Definitely wanted to start with her. We need to get justice for her, arrest the cops that murdered her, first and foremost. Rest in peace to Breonna Taylor, rest in peace to George Floyd, and rest in peace to Elijah McClain. We demand justice, and we won't stop until that happens. Mia, how are you?
Yeah. That's the question of the year, I think, for everybody. And I have tried, or not, I won't say tried, I've been more honest in answering that question and thoughtful about my answer. Today, I'm okay. I'm okay. When you're in the thick of, in the middle of so many different conversations at various levels, from street level to C-suite to your celebrity, your athlete, entertainer, and just understanding the tone and where everyone is right now. And it does feel different, right? When we talk about this social uprising that's happening, it feels different. It feels much more urgent than it ever has. I think we see a lot of performative measures by corporations, by even some of our own, and there's a lot of heaviness right now, and so I'm glad that you acknowledge that space ahead of us talking. And really, that's the space that I'm in every day. I'm being asked to lead in response as far as the National Basketball Wives Association is concerned. And then also in my community of peers, there is a heavy burden of, okay, what's next? How are you going to use your platform and your voice to really affect change beyond a social media campaign. And, you know, there's so many serious issues happening beyond police brutality, systemic racism. Systemic is when the system of something is um, causing an effect, right? So there is so much that has to be tackled that it can feel completely overwhelming, and it can feel like, you know, can we really ever break through and break away from oppression, and what does that really look like? And these are questions that our generation are just now having to ask ourselves, right, in these places of leadership in adulthood. um and so I'm really looking to and tuning into the elders right now, and, you know, the ones that fought, survived, thrived, strategized, organized at a time where they didn't have corporate America's support. They didn't have the performative measures backing them, you know, to a huge degree. So um I know that's a long answer on how I'm doing.
No, I think so many different people feel you out there. I feel you. So no, it wasn't too long of an answer. I thought it was the perfect answer. And it kind of gets me into my next question for you. And Marshawn Lynch famously said,
man, you feel me? Start taking care of y'all mentals, y'all bodies, and y'all chicken.
Chicken.
mm-hmm.
So, it's so real.
I know self-care is something that you speak on a lot.
Yep.
How are you taking care of yourself right now, and what's your advice for everyone going through everything that you just described?
Mm-hmm.
What's your advice for them to take those same type of self-care measures?
So it's a great question, and it's funny because I've been in a LA away for 2 weeks just on business and connecting with family down there. And even in that 2 week period, I mean, my energy went from here to and like I was refueled and refilled by my family and loved ones. But the pulling in so many different directions and like the tasks at hand, you have to step back in a way. And right now that we're all locked down and, you know, COVID and quarantined, it's like, how do you draw that piece in the same space that you're taking care of your family, that, you know, you're figuring out your next move, you're working, whatever you're doing from home. And for me, that journey is through meditation. And I go through ebbs and flows. You know, sometimes I'll go a month and a half, 2 months, and I'm meditating daily. And then sometimes I completely go out of rhythm. But for me, when I start to feel like, whoo, okay, girl, you're literally, I'm so empathic. I start to just feel everything around me, and it can be draining. It's a gift and a curse. So when I get to that moment of, either if I'm feeling like confused or tired, like even now, I've been sleeping the past 2 days more than probably I have in the past 4 months. And it's because my body is telling me, you got to stop. You got to stop. So meditating is honestly a saving grace for me. And it's a journey that I started in 2013. I'm a nerd. I read books on all sorts of subjects and topics. And so that was kind of my discovery, was through reading. And that's another thing that I do that's self-care for me, is reading, you know, nonfiction, and educating myself. There's so many books now on the topics at hand that have been on my list, from, you know, the Nipsey list of books that I wanted to get to, which got him in full activist mode. Like now I'm like, shoot, I gotta redirect. Like I gotta get to reading all my books on our history that we missed. Yeah.
I just got that book Contagious from his list.
Yeah, and the one that I was suggested was Spook Behind the Door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's on the list. I didn't get to that one yet, but I'm probably gonna read every single one.
I'm currently reading Sapiens, which is, it's a book on the history of mankind, like literally from the beginnings of what we know and what we're piecing together.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because there's an era called the cognitive era, where I guess not religions per se, but we're humans used to travel in bands, right? And 150 people was like the max amount of a tribe that you can get before things started to get confusing. And like before you had to start to implement outside philosophies, faiths, beliefs that weren't there within the community, and the idea of, you know, selling those philosophies. So it's interesting. I'm a nerd on life, and I like to like understand human nature, our mindset, our psychology. Probably should have went to school to be a psychologist. I didn't get that far.
Yeah. we're gonna get into your dreams and aspirations in a little bit.
Oh, dope.
What I took from that right there, what you just said, is to kind of just have a get in your zone, lock in, have a clear head, and self-educate yourself right now in this time.
Yeah, I mean, continuously self-educate, and also obviously take care of your body. You got to move your body. I know, again, we're on lockdown, but for most of us that where that's not in our daily schedule, like just, you know, if it's walking, running, biking, playing basketball, whatever it is, like the movement of your body is so important. You know me, I'm big on like nutrition
Right.
and holistic care, and all of it plays in a part. Your mind, your body. I mean, Marshawn said it best. Like it's
Your mind, your mental,
it's all congruent.
like that's the perfect way to put it.
Yeah, straight up.
I'm happy to hear that. Last time I saw you, we were side by side in Oakland protesting for justice for George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. As a leader in business, as well as a leader of your family, can you speak to the importance of us getting out there and letting our voices be heard as a community?
Yeah. I think, again, being that for our generation, I mean, I was out in the streets of downtown LA, you know, for Trayvon Martin in 2012. And I'm thinking like of all of the social, racial, police brutality and injustices of my time. I was right in the thick of, you know, when the Rodney King verdicts were going up. Me and my mom were literally driving on like Florence and Western, which is down the street from the epicenter where it all went down.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said, especially for our children. And I didn't bring my babies out there because of COVID and just not knowing if things were, you turn up one way or another, you know, because these protests have been a little different. But there's something to be said about physically being in community with like minds that are passionate about something, and just feeling that hurt and that pain, because it's easy for us, and I speak to us meaning like, you know, in positions of influence and you know, being blessed to be in the situation, financial situations or whatever it is, it's easy to feel removed from what's happening on the ground, right? And so it was amazing to see like Steph and Aisha out there, and Juan, who I'm so proud of for organizing that specific march, because it does matter, and and you do need to reconnect and remember, okay, I'm them, we're each other. There is no separation, you know, it's an illusion. And I think that's, for me, what's been weighing on me heavily is that we cannot allow that comfort level, even for ourselves. Forget them, not like that. I mean,
what you mean?
Forget white supremacists. I'm not saying like them as a whole, but like we have to keep this same passion and energy with each other, right? And it's really easy for us to begin isolating and not you know, not being empathetic to issues that we may not face in our day to day. But if my kid and your kid, you know, can't go out and have the same rights as every other white American in the, there's a problem if this is 2020 and this is still happening.
Still happening.
And this, we're again outside of just police brutality. Like, we're talking about in the corporate level, you see a whole bunch of whistleblowing going on about how people are just tired of it. They're fed up. They're tired of putting on the tap shoes and, you know, making it seem like everything's okay, because it's not. We are dealing with these microaggressions daily, everywhere. And it's, we got to keep this same energy. That's all I got to say.
It felt so powerful being out there. And like you said,
Yeah.
like, man, when I was out, that was my first time being a part of something like that. And I just felt like I am George Floyd. Like, that can be me one day. So we're out there and we're laying on the ground for 8 minutes. And
that was deep.
Hearing people screaming out, "I can't breathe. That's my son." It like brings tears to your eyes, because it's a feeling that overcomes you, where you feel like, man, he's me. Or that could be my son. Or that could be just, we got to do something about this. This can't keep going on. So being out there and letting our voices be heard was super important to me. And I've done it again since then. And and it's not only just black people with you, it's white people too, which is really good to see. All of us coming together for the same cause and realizing that this can't go on anymore.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely need our white brothers and sisters to lend their voices and their, you know, their empathy and their privilege to advance the movement. Because if there is no recognition of what their privilege is, there's no change. You know what I mean? In order for something to be changed, you must first be aware that there's a problem. So
fire right now.
What'd you say?
I said there's a house on fire right now. That's
man, right. And it's the Black House. And we need all hands on deck. And I think, you know, with the advent of social media, and the way in which these videos and messages are like able to spread, you know, it's definitely to our advantage. It's heartbreaking and unfortunate that it takes having to see Black death on camera in order for people to be empathetic with our walk. Right. And I think we're seeing that with the case of Breonna Taylor, because we don't see it, you know what I mean? And even though we've seen the lack of transparency from the police department and the outright lies and, you know, just the total disregard of compassion and how they dealt with Mrs. Taylor, her mother. But because we don't have it on camera, you right. Understand what I'm saying? And because it's a Black woman, and unfortunately, like we've been seeing in all these memes and quotes, the Black woman is the most disrespected and unprotected person walking this earth. And that's tragic. And it's tragic that we don't say that out loud. And it's tragic that our brothers don't lead in that stigma, you know?
Well, have you heard J. Cole's song?
His new song?
Yeah. It's called,
I have not. I just saw the controversy about it.
Yeah, there was a lot of controversy on it. And he was talking to No Name, the rapper No Name.
Right.
And he was basically just speaking on how everyone's looking to him to be this guy. And he's saying that he doesn't know as much as she does. So you got to listen to it. I took a little piece of it that I wanted you to hear real quick.
Okay. Hey Cole, appreciate what you've been doing. That's real, but damn, why I feel faker than snow on the bluff? Or maybe because deep down I know I ain't doing enough.
So he feels like he's not doing enough. And it brings me to the question for you to ask you. What does a Black man's support look like for a Black woman? And what advice do you have for Black men out there right now supporting our sisters in business?
In business in particular, or just in life? In
just
business?
In life overall.
Okay. It first begins with healing. It first begins with intentional healing. In a lot of our homes, you know, there is and that's not just subjugated to Black people. I would say in homes period, but speaking to our people, there's a lot of hurt, pain, generational trauma, curses, cycles things that we're trying to break and that are, we're up against. And our brothers need to heal from that. There's so much anger, rage, hurt, confusion, all these things that are pent up. Again, this is generational genetic stuff. And there's a lot of masking that's done. There's a lot of womanizing that's done because of it. I always say our kings don't get enough respect either. For some reason, we're like pit against each other. But can you imagine the Black man having to be the provider of the most unprotected woman walking this earth, right? Like, that's a job. And I think within every household, it just begins with intentional healing. And think about where we get our messages from, through media, through music. And I'm so glad that this Black Music Action Coalition was formed. I don't know if you've recently seen this.
I haven't heard about that yet.
Okay, if you check out Pharrell's page, I know he advertised on it. But essentially, it's like this, list of the who's who, a lot of indie artists, new artists, OG artists, and their commitment to seeing change within the music industry. And when we talk about messaging and why there's so many stereotypes of Black life, and you only get to see it through two lenses. It's through the athletic sports lens, Black man, and it's through rap. Like, those are the two lenses that mainstream media see Black people, Black men in particular. And so we have to be more accountable about the content that we're producing and performing, period. And this is what I mean by things are weighing heavy on me, because even the stuff that we as a culture, the elite or the people of influence starts to feel performative, because I don't know that people are willing to give up their stature and their wealth to really free our people. I don't know that that's the case.
Yeah.
So that's the part that sinks my heart at night sometimes, is knowing what it's really going to take. And are we really there? What is it going to take? Who does it have to hit? You know what I mean? I love that we're shaking the table, and I'm going to do everything that I can in my power to make this real and effective. And I feel like we have enough people on board, and I feel like it's the same people that have kind of been in the fight. I would love for our athletes, entertainers, people in powerful, visible places of influence to really just educate ourselves, right? Educate ourselves on what's already been done. Yeah. And like how you can really be effective to making some lasting change. So, yeah.
Okay. I'm so proud of you in the way that you've been leading the way for this, man. Like, you're so inspirational to me. The stuff that you say on a daily basis, you don't even know that you're speaking to me all the time, but you're speaking directly to me. And then when you're speaking to me, I'm speaking to everybody else who I come in contact with, showing them your stuff, or just having it in my head to go research get my own research off of what you said, so that I can apply it, and also tell someone that's younger, or tell someone else who has a question. So thank you for leading the way that you have, and I love the way that you're fighting the fight.
Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
I'm gonna take a little pivot, because we do have a bunch of people who do look up to you and want to know just how you got to where you got. We have a bunch of dreamers that follow us here at Yellow Brick, and the question that I always ask is, what was your dream as a kid?
Super simple for me. I've been in the entertainment industry since I was 2, I think is when I had my first national commercial. So it's funny because since I can remember, the dream was to be in the entertainment business, right? And I think that dream went from I want to be a recording artist, entertainer, actress, to I actually want to produce and create content. And like we just said, like being able to present stories through the Black lens where it's not the typical lens and it's not the typical story, and being able to see ourselves and celebrate ourselves in other versions of ourselves that exist that we just haven't seen on mainstream media. So I'm segueing and pivoting into that myself. You know me, I like to just into, until the ink is dry, until things are really happening. But they are, and I come from that space. It's my happy place. I think my passion is just educating and empowering women in particular, but all people that I come across in my life. So I'm able to do that through the National Basketball Wives Association nonprofit, through the Wright Legacy Foundation, and then just through, I always get you need to brand yourself. Like you need to, and I'm like, I don't know that that's my calling, is to like turn this into like a thing.
Right.
I think that it's my gift to be able to communicate and translate in a way that's received well, right? And so I know that's a gift. I know that I have I'm very spiritual. I definitely have, prophetic vibes that I don't even, could be scary for me sometimes. But so those things, I feel like the natural God gifts, you just have to let them show up.
Yeah.
They'll show up. You don't have to chase anything. It's just going to show up for you. So yeah, being authentic definitely leads you to that road. But yeah, my dream as a kid, just being in the entertainment industry and being a mother, like having a family, which I have this beautiful family, thank God.
I love it.
But those are the two things since I was a little kid, I just always wanted: family, entertainment industry.
So how did you take this experience that you had since you were 2 in front of the camera to now pursuing this passion that you have behind the camera?
Great question. I think for me in my journey as the industry kid, you realize how there's not much opportunity for you, or it just feels like everybody's fighting for these 1 or 2, 3, different positions. Yeah, right. And I mean, I think we could see that evident in our music and in Hollywood culture as Black people. I mean, it's evident. I think that's one of our issues that we're raising, is that we need to take up more space. You need to not even need to allow, but we're going to start taking up more space, right? And so I think when I finally stepped away from pursuing the music industry, after having been signed for 6 years to RCA and putting out an album and touring with Christina Aguilera and Destiny's Child, and, doing all the things that the R&B girls did back in those days, I think I wanted to give myself that space to have a normal life, and to be behind the scenes. And shortly thereafter, I met my husband Darrell, and I started supporting him and in his dream, and him as an NBA player, and he played for 12 years, NBA champion. And within that, of course, got drawn back to what my happy place is. And I would have studio sessions with friends here and there throughout the years, but never put 100% behind it. So now that Darrell's retired, I have so many of my peers and friends are in these incredible places in the industry where I'm privileged enough to have the ability to say, hey, let's do this project, and there's an actual green light there.
Resources.
That's definitely what makes it feel so doable. But it's also, like I said, that inspiration of, I want to see my story and the stories of my girls. Like, I want to see those stories played out on camera. And it's important for our younger girls, our young Black girls especially, to aspire not only to be in front of the camera, but to be the creators, you know, and whether that's in entertainment industry, whether that's in science, whether that, you know, like,
Yeah.
just really encouraging our girls to
Forget it.
think beyond, you know, the boxes that we've been handed.
Mm-hmm. We're not about to marginalize our women. We're not about to do
Right.
it.
Right.
We're way too talented for that.
Right.
So I love it. Things basically came full circle for you in your whole life, from
Yeah.
all the acting and the singing and everything. So now you kind of have that experience to be able to show someone the way,
Mm-hmm.
as well as just be excellent in what you're doing right now. So it's kind of cool to hear that.
Yeah. It's
Nothing
dope.
happens by
Always.
accident.
No, it's always intentional and with design. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, I would toy around with a friend of mine about starting a girl group. It's just when you know the game, or when you have knowledge of something, and you can remember yourself in like that moment of just hoping, you know, having just the opportunity to be in a position to even just give you game. Like,
Yeah.
it's a blessing. And it's mentorship, and I think
Mm.
that's something that comes natural to me in my friendships. Just, I'm an open book. And you know, if you don't have to make the mistake, or if you don't have to learn the hard lesson because you're learning through my story, then, you know, so be it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you are great in that mentorship role, and you have the National Basketball Wives Association. Can you tell us what you guys specialize in, and why it's so important for you to have a National Basketball Wives Association?
Great question. So our essential mission that we've been focusing on recently is through our Books and Ball program, where we fund ACT, SAT prep courses for both the boys and girls basketball program at underserved inner city high schools. We just launched it during All-Star Weekend in Chicago with Dunbar Vocational Career Academy, and they were blown away. It was an initial $20,000 pledge, and for them, that type of money being donated to their program was just, they were so appreciative and humbled. And so it's not only ACT, SAT prep, it's gear sponsorship, private tutoring and mentorship. And then just now we're expanding it to general public school funding. So making sure that general funds are sent to those schools as well. Because I don't know if you've heard, but the ACT and SAT may not even be a thing
I did see
for college players, right? And so you have to know how to pivot. It's now, especially like with so much going on. So we
that.
have that program. We're launching NVWA Says Her Name, where we're highlighting Black female business owners on our website. Also on our social media channels, just uplifting, very similar to what Beyonce just recently launched, was incredible.
Yeah.
But focusing on Black female business owners. And then we've also just again, I don't like to leak things until it's ready, but we are working on a program that will support the families of victims of police brutality, and especially those cases like Elijah McCain. His case was over a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can lend our platform to these families that are just trying to get justice, you know, for the loss of their loved one, that's definitely something that we're looking to do. And then also with the American Cancer Society, we're helping to fund the Research Hers project, which is focusing on women in particular that are doing cancer research studies and funding their grants. So
Mm.
a few things in the pan with NVWA.
I like
Um, Yeah,
Yeah,
and why it's necessary. um Again, it's about kind of taking back that narrative of what it means to be the partner, not the wife, but the partner of a professional athlete, and particularly in the space of basketball. And I think, through the lens of media, there was like this stigma that was put on everybody, which was not everyone's reality. And it's amazing when people are surprised that we have attorneys, dentists, teachers, uh, financial advisors. Like, these are all wives of professional players, and we don't get to see that. We don't really get those stories. And so to have this really dynamic group of women, and I think our membership is over 100 women now within the first 3 years, and having a female driven event during All-Star Weekend with the Women's Empowerment Summit, and to see how that's grown and become like a staple of the weekend, is really something to be said. It's something to be said. And it's, when our women, and a lot of ladies are sometimes hesitant because they're like, oh, I don't know. You know what I mean? I like to stay in my corner. Like, I don't want no trouble. But when they come out to these events, they're like, wow, I had no idea that this was the vibe. And like, I love it. I'm down. What can I do? I want to sign up. So it's been really cool, to connect this dynamic group of women, and to have that support and network and sisterhood, and then really to lend, ourselves to the communities in which we come from and that we love. It's been incredible. I always feel like the more numbers we have, the more we can do.
of course, the more powerful we are.
That's
I
right.
love the event that you had this year in Chicago. I didn't get to go, but I mean, obviously, but it was pretty dope. I loved everything that you had going on. I've seen it grow. So I'm once again, you out here killing them. So proud of you.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that.
So as these young people are growing, you guys are grooming young people with on the nonprofit side of things. They're all learning on the fly in this new climate.
Right.
What's a common mistake that you're seeing businesses make right now? And how can we show these young people, these young dreamers, how to read the room better?
um I think in response to, um the social uprising right now, we're starting to see that even through the performative social media post campaigns, um, a lot of our Black community that work for these corporations at much, maybe, smaller levels, not in the C-suite level or not in the decision making level, are starting to step out through Twitter and saying, hey, this ain't right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is what's really going on. And I think we've seen it just throughout. It's so funny, the things that led up to this kind of breaking open of what's happening, but through the, different brands like Gucci and Dove and all of these major brands, where you're thinking, how did you guys come out of the room and said, that's the campaign, or this is the content, and this is,
Because there's not enough
the
black and
design that we're putting out. And, you know, there is such an opportunity and such an awakening right now for our young people to be advocates, of business, but understanding cultural representation and sensitivity and authenticity, right? And trust me, companies are scrambling trying to figure out who they can hire to fix it all. And there's too much to fix. But um, I think there's so much power in being kind of indie right now too. Like, you know what I mean? Really, really thinking about enterprising yourself. Maybe you don't have to go work for said big corporation, but you can take your talents and say, hey, I'm a Black creative, or I'm a young creative that gets it. Like, hire me, to assist, especially now that everybody's working from home.
Mhm.
You know, everything's really downsizing. I think really thinking about enterprise or thinking about owning your gifts is huge right now.
Mhm.
Owning your gifts and not selling them, you know, for cheap or selling yourself for short because you want to be associated with a name or a brand.
Yeah.
Um, you know, no matter who you represent, if your talent and if what you're producing is quality, you know, right now is an amazing time to be discovered.
Right.
Um, so I would just say stay encouraged, stay focused on what your goals are. Um, and really, really, especially times like these, you have to think about what your purpose is and and people say that's such an easy question to throw around, like purpose. What is purpose?
Mm.
Um, purpose is, for me, it's what you're here to do.
Mhm.
And it may not be to be the C-suite executive or to be the athlete, or you know, it could be something on such a micro
What?
level, a community level,
Mhm.
that that has the domino effect. And as I see in your background, looks like dominoes, but has that ripple effect to create, you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
legitimate um change within someone or within an entity. And I always just say lean into your gifts, lean into your gifts, and be yourself, show up as yourself. If you can't show up as yourself, then you're selling
You don't need
yourself
to
short. So
just go out here fronting. We don't need
yeah.
that.
Hmm.
And I'm so glad that you hit on that because you're speaking directly to our audience. You're talking to the young people who are going into being independent and starting their own. Here
Yeah.
at Yellowbrick.co is where you can find all of those different programs for you to do that self-research that she's saying that you need to do. Not don't need to listen to anybody else and what they have going on their life path. You need to
Right.
find your own and do your own research, as Mia keeps alluding to.
Yep. Yep. That's right.
When you're pursuing your passion as a Black woman, what are some hurdles you've dealt with and how did you overcome them?
Well, you threw as a Black woman in there, so clearly, not clearly, but I'm mixed, with all sorts of things. But I identify only with my Black side. That's all. It's only family that I've known, right?
Mhm.
So I've been speaking to being honest about my bias and privilege, being fair skinned and not having the same exact journey or walk that a sister of mine who's of a darker complexion with a different grade of hair or whatever is going to have to endure and experience, right? So I have to be clear on that and recognize my bias and privilege, even though I don't use it to my advantage, you know, and that's not something that I lead with. It's something that exists, and it's something that our community doesn't talk about enough.
Mhm.
So I can't say that the Blackness in me has caused a hurdle because it's not something that's visible, right? Until somebody starts to have a conversation with me,
Then
or even then, I do know how, and that's sad, but I know how to put on my professional corporate voice, you know,
yeah.
and to where you're confused, you know, I'm something, but you don't know what it is. And but that just goes to show how we haven't gotten over that, right? Um,
Is that a part of systematic racism where we have to put on the voice?
oh, 100%. It's assimilation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not being able to show up as my true self with my dialect and my slang.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, can you imagine a world where we could just like
Yeah.
come in and just be us?
Yeah.
Like, how incredible that would be.
That's coming.
But it's not real. I don't know that I've had hurdles. I think my hurdles would have been in maybe the music industry and just the grind of what that was back in the day before social media. You know, we were signed when I was 13 and we went through artist development for 3 years. So, you know, my album didn't come out until I was 16.
Wow.
And just the hurdles within the industry at that time, like we didn't like most of the records that they were giving us, and they wanted to make us really cheesy. You know, we couldn't be ourselves, and that happens all the time in the music industry. You know, the label gives you parameters, and you're not really in control of yourself. And a lot of our artists now that we see, it's a reason why we only get to hear certain kinds of music, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Representative of our culture. Like, that's a real thing. So I guess those were hurdles, and that those are hurdles right now that artists deal with.
Right. How do you overcome that?
Yeah, it even, oh my God, the greatest example, because this is the space that I'm moving into. I didn't realize that Lena Dunham from Girls,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Amazing show. Love that show. One of
But
my favorites.
she
She
made it
was
off of Friends.
23, huh?
She made it off of Friends.
Right. Well, inspired by Friends, but
Yeah.
23 years old and walked into HBO with no character or no plot, just a concept.
Mm-hmm.
I got a million concepts.
Yeah. Right.
Like, that to me is mind blowing. Like, the hurdles that Black people, like, I won't say again my specific hurdles, but just the hurdles of our culture to present, you know, and to be able to have opportunity, are just, they're mind blowing, and people are starting to blow the whistle. And, you know, hopefully we move into a space where true talent is celebrated and recognized and advanced, and not just, you know, a relationship based society. And yeah.
Sure. No, that's the perfect answer right there. I'm with you. But the belief in yourself and it's kind of what you keep saying is going to get you over that hump. And
Yeah.
I read a tweet from you where you said you have to be crazy enough to believe in yourself. And that one really stuck with me. Like, can you elaborate more on that?
I can elaborate more on that. We are in a society that we're programmed out the gate, and we're programmed to be insecure. We're programmed to be doubtful, to doubt ourselves, to feel like there's not enough space, to feel like we have to follow the program and the trek of what society tells us to do. Otherwise, we're probably not going to be successful. We're programmed to have a definition of what success is, right? A general definition of what success is. And so, when you do come to a point of really unplugging and investing time in unlearning, and really going within and asking yourself those questions. If I had all the money in the world, what would I be doing? You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of people, they base their goals off of how can I make money, or how can I attain, how can I get things, how can I, you know, versus what makes my soul happy, and, you know, what would I wake up to just the happiest to be about, you know? So a part of that is just first being clear on what it is that you want out of this life, what it is that you're going to give to this life, right? Then the next step is you got to believe it. You have to feel like you're worthy. You're not going to get that from the outside world. I'm going to tell you off top. You know, you're going to get the exact opposite, right? And so you really have to tap in, stay focused, and be clear, and shut out naysayers, haters. If you're stepping in this position of, you know, public influence, or in the public in general, you're never gonna be able to do it right. Y'all know Aisha's one of my best friends, and anytime something crazy, she knows how I feel. Like, who cares? Literally, she's a Christian, mom, entrepreneur, one of the first Black women on, or cover girls, whatever the record was. Like, she's done all these amazing things, and yet and still, there's haters and naysayers and all of the things. But that just goes to show you can literally have accomplished everything, and there's gonna be a hater, and you can't let that knock you off your square. You have to, and and of course it's human nature to want to be accepted and loved, and we get in these spaces of being bothered, and then we start performing to what the audience wants, right? And then that's when we lose ourselves, and then we get in these very not good situations. So when you start having that anxiety, and what I shared earlier on, I just was feeling too much, like that's when all right, I gotta step back, I gotta have boundaries, I have to create a safe space for me to refuel and recharge, and to remember what those callings were.
Yeah. You gotta be crazy enough to be your biggest fan.
Crazy enough to believe in yourself, because it's not the norm. I'm telling you, it's not the norm. It's not what society teaches us. It's just not. So
I believe in you before everybody else does.
That's right.
So you brought up money and how that's a thing that everybody's kind of chasing and wanting. And it's funny because I've been having some really good conversations with some really intelligent people recently, specifically my guy, Cam McCullough, who's the Duce Palooza founder. And we've just been having so many different conversations about Black business recently. And it got me thinking about the dollar, and it had me looking it up. And just with all my research, I see that the dollar is the most powerful currency in the world. But in our community, we kind of treat it with such little regard. I saw how long the dollar lasts in Asian communities and in Jewish communities, and almost a whole month, like 26, 28 days. And then I saw that in the Black community, the dollar lasts 6 hours.
Yep.
And our spending power is over $1 trillion. So me and Cam was having a conversation about, just imagine if we can take 25% of that 1 trillion and keep it circulating throughout our communities and our businesses. And with you being a business owner yourself, what advice do you have for us to better support Black businesses and keep money circulating in our communities?
Again, we're in such a awakening moment, and it's been so refreshing and encouraging and inspiring to see our people really supporting one another instead of finding opportunities to bring each other down. But it starts with the mindset, and it has to start with seeing value in one another, with trusting one another. But the main thing is to see value. I think for so long, we find our validation outside of ourselves, right? And outside of our communities, outside of each other. Like, the validation is through things that aren't even meant for us. So when Tyler Perry announced his opening of his studios, I tweeted, I was like, so when we having the Tyler Perry Awards? And like how we have the Oscars. And we have our own, and why can't it be the Tyler Perry Awards? He was the first to have the studio. Who is Oscar? We don't know who that's a big old hawk. We don't know who Oscar is.
Right, for real.
Or whoever that was. I don't know the history. And even in television, like, I would love to have an Emmy, but I would prefer to have the Tyler Perry Award. We have to redirect the value back to ourselves. And we have to support each other, and we have to have our own events. I was just sharing with my brother Baron Davis, we got to bring back the Black Expo. Like, that's an event that my group used to perform at, and we used to feel bad, like, hey, we got to go perform at the Black Expo.
Gotta have it.
Yeah, we have to bring that back. Like, we have to invest in ourselves. And I think that's one thing. Even our people that are in the spaces of elite wealth, is you have to bring the ladder down, and that comes through tangible things, creating schools, and STEAM programs in our communities where they're not available. Put your sponsorship dollars there. Like, it starts with education and opportunity. And so I believe it's Dr. Dre that's opening. Him and his partner are starting a new school in LA for kids,
Wow.
inner city kids, in partnership with USC. But we have to start creating, like how they have the prison pipeline. It's going to be our responsibility to create the business vocational job opportunity pipeline for our people. It's the burden is on us. We can't keep looking to the government. We can't keep looking to, these angel donors that pour in $1 million every 10 years in a community. Like, we have to facilitate and be responsible for these institutions.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. Couple of things that I spoke to, Lenny Fane Smith, spoke with him. He does Active Faith, and one thing that was consistent in our conversation was access to funding and exposure. Like, that's a really big thing that I would really like to see more of. And you brought up Tyler Perry, and when he had everyone there, it was just Black excellence. Everyone who was a somebody in entertainment was there.
Right.
And it had us thinking, like, man, can you imagine if those people in that room did what Obama does? When Obama puts out his book list, like we talked about Nipsey's book list, I'm sure all of those books went through the roof.
Right.
And when Obama does that with his book list, they go through the roof. Like,
if
those people that were in that room would be talking about Black business this and Black business that, I think that kind of gets the conversation started, and we can kind of move it a little more. So I definitely want to see a lot more of that, and less classism too when it comes to the people up there, where it's like they're only supporting the people that are popping.
Yeah.
Those are a couple of things that I want to see change.
Yeah, I mean, and to me, those are easy changes. When you're lending your voice and your platform to highlight somebody else, that's the easiest thing you can do. Right. One of the more challenging things, and I air quote that because it's only a challenge or a problem if you make it one, but one of the more challenging things is the hiring of our people in these places. But to me, that feels like it can get lazy, and that's because you're not really looking. It's what it is, and you want to hire people that you feel like can push and excel your brand or your business or whatever it is because of their track record. But I think we depend too much on that sometimes. Familiarity and name brand sake, or when it comes to like these agencies and people that you're hiring to take a percentage of your company to push and promote you, right? And to me, that's where the classism, and that's where we get separated, is when we're not hiring and uplifting and empowering our own when we have the opportunity to do so. Right. And it's usually because out of lack of security in your decision making, because if you're clear on the vision and you got the capital and resources to execute, you bring on whoever to your team. Right. When you're not clear and when you don't know what you're doing and when you're allowing somebody else to drive the car, that's where things get a little shady.
So, right. And that brings me to my next question, which we're kind of on. And just in the current state of our country right now, what do you want to see Black unity mean to you? And how do we take our communities from the local socioeconomic level to the national political level?
Yep. Woo! Fire question. Fire question, because I'm cooking up something right
That's
now.
You. Yeah.
I want Black unity to be sustainable. And sustainability comes through strategy, organization, mobilization, commitment. I feel like for the first time, everybody's kind of looking around like, okay, are we serious this time? like, like, wait, okay, wait, we really about to support each other? Are we, you know what I mean? Like, oh, wait, we're really about to, you know, not go for the performative stuff at our corporations that we work for. So, but we have to have strategy and action built upon that, those feelings and those emotions, right? Because emotions or feelings are temporary and they're easily shifted. And so it's going to take, like I said, self-commitment to it. Like whoever you are, you have to say to yourself, I am committed to seeing that my people are no longer oppressed. That's a hell of a statement to make. And I don't know that everybody is willing to make that statement. But, you know, for our people that really have the capital power influence to be the change agents outside of performative measures, you got to make that commitment. You have to make that. It's your burden. That's what it is. Give me the Bible verse because you know it's at the tip of my tongue. Say it.
Man, now I'm drawing a blank, man. I went to man, I'm supposed to know this.
I mean, heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Right.
Not even that one. There's another one. I'm drawing the blank too. See, because I need to get back in that Bible. I've been too much on Deepak Chopra and Eckhart Tolle. I need to get back.
Nah, but I'm with you though. I know exactly what you mean.
But there is responsibility. And I think, you know, for so many of us, we didn't realize how bad it still is. I mean, it's bad. It's bad. We have to be honest with ourselves. This is horrible. This is horrible conditions for our people on all levels. And so when it comes to the political aspect of it, again, that's a space that we haven't really had to pay attention to. We had Obama. We showed up for Obama. I mean, I've been voting since 18, since I was able to vote. But that's when most of our people showed up because it was the first Black president. But in America, the land of laws and contracts and agreements and policy and legislature, that is the game that you're playing at all times. And so if you're not the person that's the politician, but you have an opportunity to align yourself with the people that do this work day in and day out, that have been trying to get your attention, to lend your celebrity, just to amplify what's already going on, just to help redirect some dollars and funding to what's already going on, that's how you can show up. That's Black unity. That's Black unity. You don't have to be the one that creates the organization that's going to change the world, but use your face and your leverage and your platform to say, hey, I'm aligned with this, right? And educate yourself. It's going to take a little bit of time for you to be uncomfortable and intimidated because you don't really know the language. But guess what? That's why you got your Black brothers and sisters that have been in politics are like, sis, come on, I got you. Let me break it down into bite-sized pieces. But it's going to take removing ego. It's going to take real compassion. It's going to take the risk of, you know, you might risk some deals, you know, you might, but it's like, how much money, if you got all the money in the world, but yet your daughter or your son could still go somewhere where they're unknown and be shot and killed or be discriminated against in the workplace, what are we really doing?
Nah, there's a
big... What are we really doing? What are we really, what is this? You know?
Yep.
I'm on the other side of the fence, as you can see.
I'm right over there with you.
Yeah, so.
Man, that was a word right there. That was powerful.
I had to just like take a beat.
Yeah. What has been the most important thing that you've learned on this journey that you've been on?
That there are endless possibilities. There are endless possibilities, and you don't have to, but I like to lean into uncertainty, because that's where magic is for me. Like, I like the idea that I can even imagine all the things, right, that can happen and that can come to me in this life and that I can experience. Because if I would have just went with my path, how boring. Like, I'm thinking about that, like, how boring would that have been if I just got everything that I wanted at every single turn, and, you know, if things were just so predictable. So I've learned to embrace uncertainty. I've learned that um, having things and, you know, having status does not guarantee you peace of mind, and that your peace of mind and your sense of self is the most valuable thing that you can have in this life. You can go broke and recreate yourself a million times if you have the ingenuity and the belief. So another thing that I've learned. And to really enjoy life. And like, and now you know that side of me. You know that side of me. All of my people that really know me.
Yeah.
It's so important. I mean, that's me. Again, that's me. I like to be fully immersed in my joyful experiences, however they may come, through travel, through partying with my people, through cooking with my people, like just the basic simplicity of life, and enjoying those moments, and you know, really being able to reflect and be um grateful, just to be grateful in a space of gratitude for life. It's so fragile, and I think the more that you show grace and gratitude in your journey, the more that life is just gonna continue to unfold for you, you know, in your favor.
Woo. And you know what that goes back to? Self-care.
Yeah, self-care. Facts.
Goes all the way back to self-care.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, I want to leave y'all with a beautiful word from Mia that really, really stood out to me, and I wanted to echo her sentiment. So Mia says, "A love moment for everyone who is doing. Many try, many spectate, very few do." She says, "I see you, we need you, and thank you." So that's just, man, that's what I say that, and I'm like, that's so real right there, and that's so Mia right there. So shout out to all the doers out there, for real. For real.
I mean, that's funny that you marked that tweet, but it's real. It is real. And yeah, shout out to the doers. And we all do, whether we recognize that or not. It's about intention, right? And again, the belief in yourself that you can be a part of change. You can be successful. You know, it's just a mindset. It's a mindset. I promise you, it's a mindset. And the more that you dig deep and you know, set yourself up for success by having goals, putting dates on those goals, but you know, doing little things to, so where each step you're just like, I did that, you know, and celebrate those wins, big or small. Celebrate those wins, and you know, just remember that somebody's always watching. They may not say it, you may never know it, but somebody's watching and they're inspired. So that's at every level. So
you're inspiring somebody, and that's what we're here for right now. So shout out to everyone who was in the chat, who came through. Shout out to my partners at Yellow Brick for giving us the means to pursue our passions. Y'all make sure y'all check out yellowbrick.co. And obviously, shout out to the big dog, Mia, out here doing big things. Y'all make sure y'all check her out. Mrs. Mia Wright on Instagram. On Twitter, it is Mayo underscore.
Mayo.
Mayo.
MIO_MYO. My grandpa called me that, and that was my first Twitter name. I didn't change it.
I feel it. Nah, I love it. Yeah, man. Shout out to all you guys for coming through, man. Everybody out there, y'all need to be safe. Like Mia says, you need to continue to educate yourself, and don't ever forget that Black Lives Matter. All love, Mia. We out.
Thank you, Chris.
Our lives matter. Black lives matter.